And we're live. Welcome, friends. Greetings. Happy Sunday. Six viewers in the chat. Welcome to Sinister Sundays. Eagles Pro says hi. Hi, Eagles. Greetings. And David is here. David V63, channel member and mod supreme. David, welcome. Happy Sunday, friend. How are you? I hope you're feeling better. What's for dinner? David says Mr. Superantonio or MRSA. Tonight we shall be discussing the Tunguska event, which happened in Russia and Siberia in 1908. I call it a Soviet Area 51, but it is technically, the Russian Revolution happened in 1917, so technically it's a Tsarist Area 51, hence Rasputin being on the thumbnail. And if you don't know who Rasputin is, read a GD book. I don't mean that. If you know who he is, it's a funny thumbnail. If you don't, you're not really missing anything. Miko says, hello, Super Antonio and Sadie. Hello, mods. Howdy, folks. Miko, greetings. Red 2 says hi. And David says, sending you pictures of the Madame Lalaurie. Okay, David, we'll use it in the next Sinister Sunday. So the Tunguska event was a blast that is presumably a meteor blast. Here's a picture from 1908 of the devastation. It happened in Siberia, the Tunguska region. It was heard as far away as London and Washington, D.C. and in New York. The skies were lit. It was brightly lit like daylight, in Europe. From this blast. It's presumed to be a meteor blast, but there was no crater. What's that about? Sharpie says, hi, folks. And then, let's see. So that was in 1908. And this is what it looks like today. Come on, hold on. So where the trees are, like no trees will grow there anymore. There's the blast site now. See, there's no crater. I believe it's like 300 meters wide. Let me look that up again. What's the diameter? The diameter is 130 feet. Yeah, but it's interesting that, 100 and some years later, no trees will grow there. What's that about? Let's see. I got some more pictures for you of the devastation that we can look at. Here we go. Yeah, blew a bunch of trees down. I think it killed 4 people. It might have been aliens. I really want it to be aliens. It wasn't aliens, but let's pretend it was aliens. Let's see. And here's some more of the devastation. And there's a better look at that, the crater from today, or the lack of a crater. Levi the Gamer says, hello, everyone. Greetings, Levi. So let's see what Wikipedia has to say about the matter, shall we? I got my coffee tonight. It was a long day today, friends. Okay. The Tunguska event, occasionally called the Tunguska incident, was a large explosion of between 3 and 5 megatons that occurred near the Podkamenya Tunguska River in Yeniseisk Governorate, now known as Krasnoyarsk Krai, Russia, on the morning of 30 June 1908. The explosion over the sparsely populated East Siberian taiga flattened an estimated 80 million trees over an area of 2,150 square kilometers or 830 square freedom miles of forest. And eyewitness accounts suggest up to 3 people may have died. The explosion is generally attributed to a meteor airburst, the atmospheric explosion of a stony asteroid about 50 to 60 meters, 160 to 200 freedom feet wide. The asteroid approached from the east-southeast, probably with a relatively high speed of 27 kilometers per second or 60,000 miles per hour. Though the incident is classified as an impact event, the object is thought to have exploded at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers, 3 to 6 miles, rather than hitting the Earth's surface and leaving no impact crater. The Tunguska event is the largest impact event on Earth in recorded history, though much larger impacts occurred in prehistoric times. Yeah, if this had hit the ground, it would have been a dinosaur killer or, an epoch killer. An explosion of this magnitude would be capable of destroying a large metropolitan era. The event has been depicted in numerous works of fiction. The equivalent Torino scale rating for the impactor is 8, certain collision with local destruction. So on 30th June 1908, cited as 17th June 1908 before the implementation of the Soviet calendar in 1918, at around 7:17 a.m. local time, Evenki natives and Russian settlers in the hills northwest of Lake Baikal observed a bluish light, nearly as bright as the sun, moving across the sky and leaving a thin trail, much like a predator ship, when you think about it. Cloudy says, hi. Greetings, Cloudy. Levi, appreciate your update, but on Sinister Sundays, we talk about all things sinister. Not really Red Dead Redemption related. Closer to the horizon, there was a flash producing a billowing cloud, followed by a pillar of fire that cast a red light on the landscape. The pillar split into 2 and faded, turning to black. About 10 minutes later, there was a sound similar to artillery fire. Eyewitnesses close to the explosion reported that the source of the sound moved from the east to the north of them. The sounds were accompanied by a shock wave that knocked people off their feet and broke windows hundreds of kilometers away. The explosion registered at seismic stations across Eurasia, and airwaves from the blast were detected in Germany, Denmark, Croatia, and the United Kingdom, and as far away as Batavia, Dutch East Indies, and Washington, D.C. It is estimated that in some places the resulting shock wave was equivalent to an earthquake measuring 5.0 on the Richter magnitude scale. Over the next few days, night skies in Asia and Europe were aglow. There are contemporaneous reports of brightly lit photographs being successfully taken at midnight without the aid of flashbulbs in Sweden and Scotland. It has been theorized that this sustained glowing effect was due to light passing through high-altitude ice particles that had formed at extremely low temperatures as a result of the explosion, a phenomenon that decades later was reproduced by the space shuttles. In the United States, a Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory program at the Mount Wilson Observatory in California observed a months-long decrease in atmospheric transparency consistent with an increase in suspended dust particles. So that's what happened. What's that about? Let's investigate further. Cloudy says, I say it was Nikola Tesla. Yeah, it could have been, Cloudy. It could have been. Selected eyewitness reports. Though the region of Siberia in which the explosion occurred was very sparsely populated in 1908, there are accounts of the event from eyewitnesses who were in the surrounding area at the time, and regional newspapers reported the event shortly after it occurred. According to the testimony of S. Semenov, as recorded by Russian mineralogist Leonid Kulik's expedition in 1930. At breakfast time, I was sitting by the house at Vanavera trading post, approximately 65 kilometers, 40 miles south of the explosion, facing north. I suddenly saw that directly to the north, over on Kool's Tunguska road, the sky split in two and fire appeared high and wide over the forest, as Semenov showed, about 50 degrees up. The split in the sky grew larger and the entire northern side was covered with fire. At that moment, I became so hot I couldn't bear it, as if my shirt was on fire. He's 40 miles away from the blast. From the northern side, where the fire was, came strong heat. I wanted to tear off my shirt and throw it down, but then the sky closed, and a strong thump sounded, and I was thrown a few meters. I lost my senses for a moment, but then my wife ran out and led me to the house. After that, such noise came as if rocks were falling or cannons were firing. The earth shook, and when I was on the ground, I pressed my head down, fearing rocks would smash it. When the sky opened up, hot wind raced between the houses like from cannons, which left traces in the ground like pathways, and it damaged some crops. Later we saw that many windows were shattered, and in the barn, a part of the iron lock had snapped. David says Tesla fired his death ray. Yeah, it does seem like a death ray type event. Imagine just going about your day and the sky lights on fire. Well, now we would just think it was a nuke. But back then, it could have been a nuke. A future nuke. Come to the past to assassinate, to stop the revolution, the Russian Revolution. But they were 9 years too early. And in the wrong event, the wrong event horizon. But time travel has never been completely accurate. I'm being sarcastic, 6 viewers in the chat. It's obviously a meteor, but, it's just so much fun to speculate. Testimony of Chuchen of the Shanyagir tribe, as recorded by I.M. Suslov in 1926. We had a hut by the river with my brother Chekarin. We were sleeping. Suddenly, we both woke up at the same time. Somebody shoved us. We heard whistling and felt strong wind. Chekarin said, "Can you hear all those birds flying overhead?" We were both in the hut. Couldn't see what was going on outside. Suddenly, I got shoved again, this time so hard I fell into the fire. I got scared. Chekarin got scared too. We started crying out for father, mother, brother, but no one answered. There was noise beyond the hut. We could hear trees falling down. Chekarin and I got out of our sleeping bags and wanted to run out, but then the thunder struck. This was the first thunder. The earth began to move and rock. The wind hit our hut and knocked it over. My body was pushed down by sticks, but my head was in the clear. Then I saw a wonder. Trees were falling. The branches were on fire. It became mighty bright. How can I say this? As if there was a second sun. My eyes were hurting. I even closed them. It was like what the Russians call lightning. And immediately there was a loud thunderclap. This was the second thunder. The morning was sunny. There were no clouds. Our sun was shining brightly as usual. And suddenly there came a second one. Chekarin and I had some difficulty getting out from under the remains of our hut. Then we saw that above, but in a different place, there was another flash, and loud thunder came. This was the third thunder strike. Wind came again, knocked us off our feet, struck the fallen tree. We looked at the fallen trees, watched the treetops get snapped off, watched the fires. Suddenly, Chekarin yelled, "Look up!" and pointed with his hand. I looked there and saw another flash, and it made another thunder, but the noise was less than before. This was the fourth strike, like normal thunder. Now I remember well there was also one more thunder strike, but it was small and somewhere far away, where the sun goes to sleep. I've been fascinated with this event my whole life. Ever since I was a young lad, and even though I know what it was, even when I first read about it, I always wanted it to be. I wanted to be aliens. It just had to be a crashed alien ship, much like the Thing. The Thing is a crashed alien ship in Antarctica, or Predator. Sabir newspaper from the 2nd July 1908. On the morning of 17th of June, around 9 o'clock, we observed an unusual occurrence. And interestingly enough, this occurred in June of 1908, and we are talking about it in June of 2024. In the north, Karolinsky village, 200 verst, 213 kilometers, or 132 miles north of Kerensky, the peasants saw to the northwest, rather high above the horizon, some strangely bright, impossible to look at, bluish-white heavenly body, which for 10 minutes moved downwards. The body appeared as a pipe, i.e. a cylinder. The sky was cloudless. Only a small, dark cloud was observed in the general direction of the bright body. It was hot and dry. As the body neared the ground, the forest, the bright body seemed to smudge, and then it turned into a giant billow of black smoke, and a loud knocking, not thunder, was heard as if large stones were falling, or artillery was fired. All buildings shook. At the same time, the cloud began emitting flames of uncertain shapes. All villagers were stricken with panic and took to the streets. Ah! Women cried, thinking it was the end of the world. It kind of was. The author of these lines was meantime in the forest about 6 versts, 6.4 kilometers north of Kirensk, and heard to the northeast some kind of artillery barrage that repeated at intervals of 15 minutes at least 10 times. In Kirensk, in a few buildings in the walls facing northeast, window glass shook. And from Siberian Life newspaper, 27 July 1908. When the meteorite fell, strong tremors. So even in 1908, they knew it was a meteorite. When the meteorite fell, strong tremors in the ground were observed, and near the Lovat village of Kansk, Uzet, 2 strong explosions were heard, as if from large caliber artillery. And then Krasnoyarets newspaper from 13 July. Kezhemskoye village. On the 17th, an unusual atmospheric event was observed. At 7:43, the noise, akin to a strong wind, was heard. Immediately afterward, a horrific thump sounded, followed by an earthquake that literally shook the buildings as if they were hit by a large log or a heavy rock. The first thump was followed by a second and then a third. Then the interval between the first and third thumps was accompanied by an unusual underground rattle, similar to a railway upon which dozens of trains are traveling at the same time. Afterward, for 5 to 6 minutes, an exact likeness of artillery fire was heard, 50 to 60 salvos in short, equal interviews, which got progressively weaker. After 1.5 to 2 minutes, after one of the barrages, 6 more thumps were heard, like cannon firing, but individual, loud, and accompanied by tremors. So the thing was breaking up. That's the only thing that makes sense. But again, no impact crater. The sky at first sight appeared to be clear. There was no wind and no clouds. Upon closer inspection to the north, i.e. where most of the thumps were heard, a kind of ashen cloud was seen near the horizon, which kept getting smaller and more transparent, possibly around 2 to 3 p.m. And possibly by around 2 to 3 p.m. completely disappeared. And then we've got some science showing the trajectory. Moving on to the scientific investigation. Since the 1908 event, an estimated 1,000 scholarly papers, mostly in Russian, have been published about the Tunguska explosion. Owing to the site's remoteness and the limited instrumentation available at the time of the event, modern scientific interpretations of its cause and magnitude have relied chiefly on damage assessments and geological studies conducted many years after the event. Estimates of its energy have ranged from 3 to 30 megatons of TNT, or 13 to 126 petajoules. Only more than a decade after the event did any scientific analysis of the region take place, in part due to the area's isolation and significant political upheaval affecting Russia in the 1910s. Russian Revolution, anyone? In 1921, the Russian mineralogist Leonid Kulik led a team to the Podkamenya Tunguska River Basin to conduct a survey for the Soviet Academy of Sciences. Although they never visited the central blast area, the many local accounts of the event led Kulik to believe that a giant meteorite impact had caused the event. Upon returning, he persuaded the Soviet government to fund an expedition to the suspected impact zone based on the prospect of salvaging meteoric iron. Kulik led a scientific expedition to the Tunguska blast in 1927. He hired local Evenki hunters to guide his team to the center of the blast area, where they expected to find an impact crater. To their surprise, there was no crater at ground zero. Instead, they found a zone roughly 8 kilometers or 5 miles across, where the trees were scorched and devoid of branches, but still standing upright. That must have been so scary to see, to walk through. I imagine there was no animal life either, no birds. It's just a dead zone. Trees farther from the center had been partly scorched and knocked down away from the center, creating a large radial pattern of downed trees. Kind of like a really scary crop circle. In the 1960s, it was established a crop circle in the forest, a forest circle, if you will. In the 1960s, it was established that the zone of leveled forest occupied an area of 2,150 square miles, square kilometers, 830 square miles, its shape resembling a gigantic spread-eagled butterfly with a wingspan of 70 kilometers, 43 miles, and a body length of 55 kilometers, or 34 miles. Upon closer examination, Kulik found holes that he erroneously concluded were meteorite holes. He did not have the means at the time to excavate them. During the next 10 years, there were 3 more expeditions to the area. Kulik found several dozen little pothole bogs, each 10 to 50 meters, 33 to 164 feet in diameter, that he thought to be meteoric craters. After a laborious exercise in draining one of these bogs, the so-called Suslov's crater, 32 meters, 105 feet in diameter, he found an old tree stump at the bottom, ruling out the possibility that it was a meteoric crater. In 1938, Kulik arranged for an aerial photographic survey of the area, covering the central part of the leveled forest, 250 square kilometers. The original negatives of these aerial photographs, 1,500 negatives, each 18 by 18 centimeters, were burned in 1975 by order of Yevgeny Krenov, the chairman of the Committee of Meteorites of the USSR Academy of Sciences, as part of an initiative to dispose of flammable nitrate film. Positive prints were preserved for further study in Tomsk. So, sounds like there was a cover-up in 1975. Being sarcastic again. Nitrate film is highly flammable. You'd know that if you had seen Inglourious Bastards. However, it's suspicious. Expeditions sent to the area in the 1950s and 60s found microscopic silicate and magnetite spheres in siftings of the soil. Similar spheres were predicted to exist in the felled trees, although they could not be detected by contemporary means. Later expeditions did identify such spheres in the resin of the trees. Chemical analysis showed that the spheres contained high proportions of nickel relative to iron, which is also found in meteorites, leading to the conclusion that they were of extraterrestrial origin. The concentration of the spheres in different regions of the soil was also found to be consistent with the expected distribution of debris from a meteor airburst. Later studies of the spheres found unusual ratios of numerous other metals relative to the surrounding environment, which is taken as further evidence of their extraterrestrial origin. I love saying that. Chemical analysis of peat bogs from the area also revealed numerous anomalies considered consistent with an impact event. The isotopic signatures of carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen at the layer of the bogs corresponding to 1908 were found to be inconsistent with the isotopic ratios measured in the adjacent layers, and this abnormality was not found in bogs outside the area. Papa One's here. Greetings, Papa One. Also, Mama One. Everyone say hi to Mama One. On Sundays, we Sinister. The region of the bogs showing these anomalous signatures also contained an unusually high proportion of iridium, similar to the iridium layer found in the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary. These unusual proportions are believed to be results from debris from the falling body that deposited in the bogs. The nitrogen is believed to have been deposited as acid rain, a suspected fallout from the explosion. Other scientists disagree. Some papers report that hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen isotopic compositions with signatures similar to those of Ci and Cm carbonaceous chondrites were found in Tunguska peat layers dating from the TE. And the iridium anomalies were also observed. Measurements performed in other laboratories have not confirmed these results. Researcher John Afinogenov has suggested that a boulder found at the event light, also known as Johnstone, is a remnant of the meteorite, but oxygen isotope analysis of the quartzite suggests that it is of a hydrothermal origin and probably related to the Permian Triassic Siberian Traps magmatism. In 2013, a team of researchers published the results of an analysis of microsamples from a peat bog near the center of the affected area, which show fragments that may be of extraterrestrial origin. What's that about? It doesn't have to be aliens. Meteors are extraterrestrial, but I want it to be aliens. It's just so much fun. Mama One, Papa One, I've been fascinated with this event since childhood. Read about it in the library and just fell in love. But of course, as a young lad, I wanted it to be aliens. I wanted it to be a crashed alien spaceship. Like in The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, or of course, Predator. The Earth Impactor Model. Let me change the slide. Here we go. The leading scientific explanation for the explosion is a meteor airburst by an asteroid 6 to 10 kilometers, that's 4 to 6 freedom miles above the Earth's surface. Meteoroids, and it's a meteoroid in space. It's a meteorite once it hits the Earth's atmosphere, and when it hits the ground. And Papa One says, look at how our society is now. No wonder aliens have not made contact. Yeah, they take a look and they say, nope, and turn around. Meteoroids enter Earth's atmosphere from outer space every day, traveling at a speed of at least 11 kilometers or 7 miles per second. The heat generated by compression of air in front of the body, ram pressure, as it travels through the atmosphere is immense, and most meteoroids burn up or explode before they reach the ground. Early estimates of the energy of the Tunguska airburst ranged from 10 to 15 megatons of TNT to 30 megatons, depending on the exact height of the burst, as estimated when the scaling laws from the effects of nuclear weapons are employed. More recent calculations that include the effects of the object's momentum find that more of the energy was focused downward than would be the cause from a nuclear explosion, and estimate that the airburst had an energy range of 3 to 5 megatons of TNT. The 15 megaton estimate represents an energy of about 1,000 times greater than that of Trinity, and that is the first Trinity. What was the code name of the first detonation of a nuclear weapon in July 16th, 1945, and roughly equal to that of the United States Castle Bravo nuclear test in 1954, which measured 15.2 megatons and one-third of the Soviet Union's Tsar Bomba test in 1961. What's the Tsar Bomba? The Tsar Bomba, to quote Wikipedia, also known by the alphanumerical designation AN-602, was a thermonuclear aerial bomb and the most powerful nuclear weapon ever created and tested. The Soviet physicist Andrei Sakharov oversaw the project at Azaramas 16. When did it happen? Let's look at this. Tsar Bomba. It's 58 megatons. It was in 1961. A nuclear device of, quote, practically unlimited power. Man, that must have scared us. Imagine living through that. So, imagine seeing that headline in the New York Times. Anyways, a 2019 paper suggests the explosive power of the Tunguska event may have been around 20 to 30 megatons. Still, it's crazy. Since the second half of the 20th century, close monitoring of the Earth's atmosphere through infrasound and satellite observation has shown that asteroid airbursts with energies comparable to those of nuclear weapons routinely occur, although Tunguska-sized events on the order of 5 to 15 megatrons are much rarer. Eugene Shoemaker estimated that 20 kiloton events occur annually, and that Tunguska-sized events occur about once every 300 years. More recent estimates place the Tunguska-sized events at about once every 1,000 years, with 5 kiloton airbursts averaging about once per year. Most of these are thought to be caused by asteroid impactors, as opposed to mechanically weaker cometary materials based on their typical penetration depths into the Earth's atmosphere. The largest asteroid airburst observed with modern instrumentation was 500 kiloton Chelyabinsk meteor in 2013, which shattered windows and produced meteorites. Another Russian event. What's that about? What are the Russians hiding over there? What are they doing over there that's causing the aliens to shoot meteorites at them? The glancing impact hypothesis. In 2020, a group of Russian scientists used a range of computer models to calculate the passage of asteroids with diameters of 200, 150 meters at oblique angles across Earth's atmosphere. You know all about oblique angles if you play pool. They used a range of assumptions about the object's composition as if it was made of iron, rock, or ice. The model that closely matched the observed event was an iron asteroid up to 200 meters in diameter, traveling at 11.2 kilometers per second, that glanced off the Earth's atmosphere and returned into solar orbit. So it just kind of bounced off and created that blast. Maybe. Perhaps. I like the it's an interesting hypothesis. I prefer the meteor blast, or this we could call the meteor bounce, I suppose. The blast pattern. The explosion's effect on the trees near the explosion's hypocenter was similar to the events of the conventional Operation Blowdown. Operation Blowdown was an explosive test carried out. Oh, I wish Serena was here. In the Kutini Payamu jungle of Australia's Cape York Peninsula in 1963 to simulate the effects of a nuclear weapon on a tropical rainforest. It was conducted by the Australian Army. The effects were caused by the blast wave produced by large airburst explosions. The trees directly below the explosion are stripped as the blast wave moves vertically downward but remain standing upright, while trees farther away are knocked over because the blast wave is traveling closer to horizontal when it reaches them. Soviet experiments performed in the mid-1960s with model forests made of matches on wire stakes and small explosive charges slid downward on wires produced butterfly-shaped patterns similar to the pattern found at the Tunguska site. The experiment suggested that the object had approached at an angle of roughly 30 degrees from the ground and 115 degrees from the north and had exploded in mid-air. Asteroid or comet? In 1930, the British meteorologist and mathematician F.J.W. Whipple suggested that the Tunguska body was a small comet. A comet is composed of dust and volatiles, such as water ice and frozen gases, and could have been completely vaporized by the impact with Earth's atmosphere, leaving no obvious traces. The comet I do not support the comet hypothesis. The comet hypothesis was further supported by the glowing skies, or sky glows, or bright nights observed across Eurasia for several evenings after the impact, which are possibly explained by dust and ice that had been dispersed from the comet's tail across the upper atmosphere. The cometary hypothesis gained a general acceptance among Soviet Tunguska investigators in the 1960s. What about the Predator craft crashing hypothesis? In 1978, Slovak astronomer Lubor Kresak suggested that the body was a fragment of comet Encke, a periodic comet with a period of just over 3 years that stays entirely within Jupiter's orbit. It is also responsible for the Beta Taurids, an annual meteor shower with a maximum activity around the 28th of 29th of June. The Tunguska event coincided with that shower's peak activity. The Tunguska's object's approximate trajectory is consistent with what would be expected from a fragment of comet Encke, and a hypothetical risk corridor has now been calculated, demonstrating that if the impactor had arrived a few minutes earlier, it would have exploded over the US or Canada. Wow! It could have been the Canadian event, the Milwaukee event. It is now known that bodies of this kind explode at frequent intervals, tens to hundreds of kilometers above the ground. Military satellites have been observing these explosions for decades. In 2019, astronomers searched for hypothesized asteroids about 100 meters in diameter from the Taurid swarm between 5 to 11 July and 21 July to 10th August. As of February 2020, there have been no reports of discoveries of any such objects. In 1983, astronomer Zdeněk Sekanina published a paper criticizing the comet hypothesis. He pointed out that a body composed of cometary material traveling through the atmosphere along such a shallow trajectory ought to have disintegrated. I mean, comets are vapor, basically vapor and ice. They're not dense. Whereas the Tunguska body apparently remained intact over the lower atmosphere. Sek- Sekanina also argued that the evidence pointed to a dense rocky object, possibly of asteroidal origin. This hypothesis was further boosted in 2001 when Farinella, Foschini et al. Released a study calculating the probabilities based on orbital modeling extracted from atmospheric trajectories of the Tunguska object. They concluded with a probability of 83% that the object moved on an asteroidal path originating from the asteroid belt, rather than a cometary one with a probability of 17%. Proponents of the comet hypothesis have suggested that the object was an extinct comet with a stony mantle that allowed it to penetrate the atmosphere. Yeah, those comet guys, they just, making up new comets to suit their hypothesis. What's that about? The chief difficulty in the asteroid hypothesis is that a stony object should have produced a large crater. Yeah, where's the crater? Where it struck the ground. But no such crater has been found. It has been hypothesized that the asteroid's passage through the atmosphere caused pressures and temperatures to build to a point where the asteroid abruptly disintegrated in a huge explosion. The destruction would have been so complete that no remnants of substantial size survived, and the material scattered into the upper atmosphere during the explosion would have caused the sky glows. Or an alien craft crashed through the atmosphere, hovered for a minute, and blew up. That didn't happen, but it would be fun if that had happened. Well, maybe not fun, but it would have made a good movie. The destruction would have to have been so complete that no remnants of substantial size survived. The material scattered into the upper atmosphere during the explosion would have caused the sky glows. Read that. Models published in 1993 suggested that the stony body would have to have been about 60 meters, 200 feet across, with physical properties somewhere between an ordinary chondrite and a carbonaceous chondrite. Typical carbonaceous chondrite substance tends to be dissolved with water rather quickly unless it's frozen. Christopher Chiba and others have proposed a process whereby a stony asteroid could have exhibited the Tunguska's impactor's behavior. Their models show that when the forces oppose a body's descent become greater than the cohesive force holding it together, it blows apart, releasing nearly all its energy at once. The result is no crater, with damage distributed over a fairly wide radius, and all the damage resulting from the thermal energy the blast releases. During the 1990s, Italian researchers, coordinated by the physicist Giuseppe Longo from the University of Bologna, extracted resin from the core of the trees in the area of impact to examine trapped particles that were present during the 1908 event. They found high levels of material commonly found in rocky asteroids and rarely found in comets. They also found alien DNA that they were unable to categorize, and when they extracted it and put it into monkey fetuses, they created an alien monkey hybrid that soon escaped and is living somewhere, well, not in the University of Bologna, wherever that is, they're experimenting in the Tunguska forest. They created a lab there, and so now there are alien monkey hybrids running around that forest. Maybe. That might have happened. Kelly et al. From 2009 contend that the impact was caused by a comet Because of the sightings of noctilucent clouds following the impact, a phenomenon caused by massive amounts of water vapor in the upper atmosphere. They compared the noctilucent cloud phenomenon to the exhaust plumes from NASA's Endeavour space shuttle. Miko says the government must be keeping everything under wraps as usual. Yes, Miko, there's a secret treaty between the Soviets and the U.S. Actually, that's one of the the Illuminati conspiracy theories, that there's a secret treaty between all nations that was signed at Antarctica that acknowledges alien life, and we our world leaders made a deal with the aliens so that they wouldn't destroy us, and I don't know what they give us, gold, what give them, gold or babies or firstborns. I don't know. It gets a little biblical, but yeah, there's a secret Soviet-U.S. treaty involving alien technology and the sharing of alien technology. Nobody knows about it. Where were we? A team of Russian researchers led by Edward Drobshevsky in 2009 suggested that the near-Earth asteroid 2005 NB may be a possible candidate for the Tunguska's object's parent body, as the asteroid made a close approach from Earth on 27 July 1908, 3 days before the Tunguska impact. The team suspected that 2005 NB58's orbit likely fits with the Tunguska object's modeled orbit, even with the effects of weak non-gravitational forces. In 2013, analysis of fragments from the Tunguska site by a joint U.S.-European team was consistent with an iron meteorite, or so they say. It was a joint U.S.-European team, but no one mentions that there were special forces in that team. What were they? Why were they deployed? Papa One. Why were special forces from the SAS and the Army Rangers, and does France have a special force? The La Force Especiale, and the Russian Spetsnaz. Why was there an elite team of international special forces operatives whose names have been redacted at this mission? What were they doing there? Who are they protecting? I'm making this up as I go along. None of this happened. I feel I have to say this. I'm just trying to entertain me. I'm just trying to entertain you, and give you an insight to how I think. I'm not so much interested in how things actually are as how I'd like them to be. I live my life that way. Where are we? Let's move this slide along. In February 2013, the Chelyabinsk-Bolide event provided ample data for scientists to create new models for the Tunguska event. Researchers used data from both Tunguska and Chelyabinsk to perform a statistical study of over 50 million combinations of bolide and entry properties that could produce Tunguska-scale damage when breaking apart or exploding at similar altitudes. Some models focused on combinations of properties which created scenarios with similar effects to the treefall pattern, as well as the atmospheric and seismic pressure waves of Tunguska. 4 different computer models produced similar results. They concluded that the likeliest candidate for the Tunguska impactor was a stony body between 50 and 80 meters, 164 to 282 freedom feet in diameter, entering the atmosphere at roughly 55,000 kilometers or 34,000 miles per hour, exploding at 10 to 14 kilometers, 69 miles altitude, and releasing the explosive equivalent energy between 10 and 30 megatons. This is similar to the blast energy equivalent of the 1980 volcanic eruption of Mount St. Helens. The researchers also concluded impactors of this size hit the Earth only at an average interval scale of millennia, so every 1,000 years. And Lake Chelko's interesting. In June of 2007, scientists from the University of Bologna. Why is the University of Bologna so interested in the Tunguska event? What do the Italians know that we don't? Identified a lake in the Tunguska region as a possible impact crater from the event. They do not dispute that the Tunguska body exploded in midair, but believe that a 10-meter, 33-foot fragment survived the explosion and struck the ground. Lake Chelko is a small bowl-shaped lake about 8 kilometers or 5 miles north-northwest of the hypocenter. The hypothesis has been disputed by other impact crater specialists. There is such a thing as an impact crater specialist. Imagine explaining that to your parents. Mom, Dad, I got a new job. Oh, very proud of you, son. What are you doing? I'm an impact crater specialist. A what? Say again. An impact crater specialist. It's a real job. In 1961, an investigation has dismissed a modern origin of Lake Chelko, saying that the presence of meters-thick silt deposit on the lake bed suggests an age of at least 5,000 years. But more recent research suggests that only a meter or so of the sediment layer on the lake bed is normal lacustrine sedimentation, a depth consistent with an age of about 100 years. So you got science here and science here. My science says 5,000 years, while my science says 1,000 years. Papa One, rant away. I'm sorry I don't have time to read the chat or react to the chat. I will react as soon as we finish the Wikipedia. A hypothesis has been, let's see, we were at that already. Acoustic echo soundings of the lake floor suggest the hypothesis that the Tunguska event formed the lake. The soundings revealed a conical shape for the lake bed, which is consistent with an impact crater. Magnetic readings indicate a possible meter-sized chunk of rock below the lake's deepest point that may be a fragment of the colliding body. Finally, the lake's long axis points to the Tunguska's explosion hypocenter, about 7 kilometers away. Work is still being done at Lake Chelko to determine its origins. Lake Chelko. Let's see if we can find a decent picture of that. Ooh, that does look like a meteor. Okay, how am I going to do this? Hold on. Hold that thought. Calling an audible here. Lake Chelko, Russia. Hold on, chat. I'm grabbing a picture for you. Okay, take a look at this. There. There is Lake Chelko. Fascinating. It does look like a super deep lake. Sadie's under the desk right now. She doesn't care about aliens. The main points of the study are that Cheko, a small lake located in Siberia close to the epicenter of the 1908 Tunguska explosion, might fill a crater left by the impact of a fragment of a cosmic body. Sediment cores from the lake's bottom were studied to support or reject this hypothesis. A 175 centimeter long core collected near the center of the lake consists of an upper 1 meter thick sequence of lacustrine deposits overlaying a coarser chaotic material. Science. Progressive reduction in the taiga forest. More science. Let's skip that part. In 2017, new research by Russian scientists pointed to a rejection of the theory that the Tunguska event created Lake Cheko. They used soil research to determine that the lake is 280 years old or even much older. In any case, clearly older than the Tunguska event. Oh, that's sad. I like that. In analyzing soils from the bottom of Lake Cheko, they identified a layer of radionuclide contamination from mid-20th century nuclear testing at Novaya Zemlya. The depth of this layer gave an average annual sedimentation rate between 3.6 and 4.6 millimeters a year. These sedimentation values are less than half the 1 centimeter per year calculated by Gasparini et al. From the University of Bologna in their 2009 publication on their analysis of the core they took from Lake Cheko. Additionally, there are problems with impact physics. It is unlikely that a stony meteorite in the right size range would have the mechanical strength necessary to survive atmospheric passage intact while retaining a velocity high enough to excavate a crater that size on reaching the ground. That's disappointing. And hold on, chat. There's a geophysical hypothesis, though scientific consensus is that the Tunguska explosion was caused by the impact of a small asteroid. There are still some dissenters. Astrophysicist Wolfgang Kundt has proposed that the Tunguska event was caused by the release and subsequent explosion of 10 million tons of natural gas from within the Earth's crust. No, Wolfgang, I'm sorry. That's not what happened. That's ridiculous. The basic idea is that natural gas leaked out of the crust and then rose to an equal density height in the atmosphere. From there, it drifted downward in a sort of wick, which eventually found an ignition source such as lightning. Once the gas was ignited, the fire streaked along the wick and then down to the source of the leak in the ground, whereupon there was an explosion. No, Wolfgang, that didn't happen. That's ridiculous. It was obviously extraterrestrial origin. And then there was a similar event also in Russia. A smaller airburst occurred over a populated area in 2013 at Chelyabinsk in the Ural district of Russia. The exploding meteoroid was determined to have been an asteroid that measured about 70 to 20 meters, 56 to 66 feet across. It had an estimated initial mass of 11,000 tons and exploded with an energy release of approximately 500 kilotons. The airburst inflicted over 1,200 injuries, mainly from broken glass from windows shattered by its shock wave. And then Glynis is here. Greetings, Glynis. Welcome to Sinister Sundays. You're just in time for the extraterrestrial events. And in fiction, many alternative explanations for the event appear. The notion that it was caused by an alien spaceship, yes, I vote for that one, is popular. That gained prominence following the publication of Russian science fiction Alexander Kazantsev's 1946 short story Explosion. And the idea was the cause of the impact. The idea that the cause of the impact was a micro black hole has also appeared. It's also been referenced in the X-Files, you know, in a bunch of movies. I'm looking at the Wikipedia. At any rate, Glenn says, my husband Jerry says hi. Greetings, Jerry. Welcome. On Sundays we Sinister. Never Weekend says, I seem to be kind of late. You're just in time, Never Weekend. Like a wizard. A chat member is never late. Let's go back to this one. There. And that, my friends, is the Tunguska event. Serena's here. Everybody say hi to Serena. Serena says, hi, Antonio. I'm sorry I'm late. And hi, everyone. Serena, we were talking about you earlier. I was talking about the Tunguska event, which produced this blast in 1908. Might have been aliens. It wasn't. It was a meteorite, but I wish it was aliens. Let's see. Serena says, hi, David. Miko says, hello, Serena. Papa One says, hi, Serena, and hi, Glynis. And David asks, how are you feeling today? Mama One says, hi, Serena, and hi, Glynis. And Serena says, hi, Mama. Sadie's here. She's under the bed. She doesn't care. She's afraid of aliens. She's under the desk. Hop, hop. Okay. Say hi to everyone. Remember that you're the co-host of this chat. Say hi to Papa One and Glynis and David and Serena and Mama One and Miko and everyone else who's here. 14 viewers in the chat. Welcome. Glynis says, hi, Serena. That was a lot of talking, friends. Got coffee tonight. So, yeah, it was obviously a meteorite explosion. Serena says, hi, Sadie, always makes me smile. Sadie says Serena always makes her smile. But, you know, there have been so many alien space ship crashes in movies, like all of my favorite movies. The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, which is easily in my top 5 favorite movies. That's all about investigating, you know, an alien spaceship that crashed in Antarctica 1,000 years earlier, millennia earlier, and what the results that happen. Predator, of course, is all about a alien space crash in South America. Yeah, it's fun, and I've just been fascinated by this event pretty much my whole life since I first heard about it since I was a young lad. Serena says, I can't go see my grandma. I'm sick until I get... Oh, that's sad, Serena. Okay, yeah, you get better. David says, let's get them likes up, folks. Appreciate you, friend, David. David, did you mention what you had for dinner? Because if you didn't, I always want to know. Papa says, I just want everyone to here to know that life matters, and please be loyal to what matters. Don't be fooled by nice words. And Serena says, LOL, love the way Sadie just looks at you. So beautiful. Yeah, she's tired. She's tired. I had a big family event today. So I was gone for most of the day. I was gone for 7 hours. And I don't think she knew when I was going to come back. She didn't know if I was ever going to come back. But of course I came back. And I brought her food. We went to P.F. Chang's. What's that about? And I saw a lot of cousins from my mother's side of the family, cousins and aunts and uncles. Because because it's coming up on the anniversary of my mother's death, and we went to the cemetery, but we also went to PF Chang's, and that was nice. But it's like seeing my cousins who are all leading conventional lives, whereas my life is very hard to explain. It's like they've got convention. They're all married with kids. It's like and just working corporate jobs. I have one cousin who's a stevedore, which is kind of like being a teamster. And he's easily making $100,000 a year with overtime. And then another one works in IT. My sister, of course, works a corporate job in marketing and PR. And here I am. And really, they just think that I play with my dog and fool around on computers and work out obsessively. And to be fair, that's how I spend most of my day. But it's like, and then they ask for stock tips. David says he had ranch chicken and mac and cheese, cornbread, and salad. Wow, that's delicious. And Glenn says, we heard Tesla had something to do with Tunguska. Yes, he did. He grabbed some of that technology. It was an alien spacecraft crash, and the Soviets used the technology to help defeat the Nazis, and also they created steroids out of them so they could dominate the Olympics. Glennis says we had bacon cheeseburgers. That's my favorite type of cheeseburger. Glennis, David made cheeseburger quesadillas, which just sound delicious. Glennis says, and send some of that rain to Florida. We are very dry. And Papa Wen says, I thank every single one of you for letting an old man rant. I apologize. It was too much. I've been in one of my moods. It happens when it rains at night, especially storms. And Mama One says, your life is fun and your life is full of fun and adventure, and be happy about your uniqueness. You are doing what you are meant to do. You will never know how much you have changed our lives and everyone here's life. That's nice to hear, Mama One. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like there's no apologies. I mean, I'm living the life I want to live. It's just an artistic, creative life, but it's just hard to explain to family, my whole life I've been known to them as, just kind of the bohemian rock and roll artist. But it's just, it's just weird being around all these, all my cousins who are just like, they're just adults, and I'm stuck in like this just limbo of Bazzaro says, howdy folks, this 20-something limbo of just rock and roll. And even though I don't party anymore, but it's like, actually I did have a coconut mojito today, even though I don't drink. But I saw like everyone there, and it's like, I definitely need a drink. And they had all these artisanal drinks at PF Chang's. PF Chang's is an odd restaurant. It's like it's an Asian American restaurant, but it's all things Asian. Like most, if you go to Chinese restaurant, you're going to get Chinese food. If you go to a Japanese restaurant, you're going to get Japanese food. Go to Thai restaurant, blah de blah de blah. But here at PF Chang's, you can get a little bit of everything, which to me is kind of racist. But you could. I got Kung Pao chicken, which is Chinese, and I got a California roll, which is Japanese, and then somebody got pad Thai, which is you can't like, but it works as a model, and it all tasted good, but it's like the whole like side of the world that is Asia, Like take all of their cuisines, all of their favorite dishes, and then just like cram into one restaurant that's like not Chinese or Japanese. It's just Asian. There was like a girl holding a katana on one of the walls, and then like Chinese dragons on the other side, It's like that's like two different cultures and aesthetics. But there are, I mean, it kind of works, but it's weird, man, let me tell you. But I ate a lot, and they also had spare ribs, which were a little saucy, but I love spare ribs. Papa once says, people used to think I brushed horses all day and rode horses all day. To be fair, I did, but it was how we made our living. A good one, if I do say so myself. We don't ever have to worry, partly because the farm is paid for. We have more than enough. I don't ever have to wear a tie, and I get to wear a cool hat. And Glynis says, we love you just the way you are. My family is weird too. My mom died 2 months ago. I'm sorry to hear that, Glynis. And I saw my family that I hadn't seen in 40 years. And David also says, sorry to hear that, Glenn. Yeah, we were my mom is buried with my dad. And one of my aunties took a photograph of like their grave, and I didn't want to do that. It's like I looked at it, and I felt this, I don't know, heaviness in my heart. But I don't want to like memorialize it in a photo. I don't think I'd ever want to look at that photo again. It's burned in my brain. I mean, I can see it right now, but I guess it had to be done. I was dreading it. I was dreading it all week, and but it's over, and and I'm back home. I'm with you guys, and Sadie's fine. Batzaro says, if you want weird cousins, I have a cornucopia of them. Out of 18, there are 3 that are tolerably weird. Batzaro, I regret to tell you that in my family, I'm the weird cousin. Mama once says, are you a night owl, Super Antonio? Yes, I am. And Glynis says, that's the way I look at it. Mama, thanks. And also thanks to Serena. Serena said, sorry to hear that, Glynis. Yeah, it's like you only get one mom. And losing them will like activate a lot of feelings that you're not aware of, or it'll catch you by surprise, even if you're ready for it. So anyways, how was everybody else's Sunday? I'm sorry you're feeling poorly, Serena. I hope you get better. Just take it, take care of yourself, drink lots of water, have your vitamins. David says, okay, guys and gals, got to head out. Hit that like button. Y'all come back now. You hear? Yes, David, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you, friend. We will return for Marston Mondays. On Mondays, we Marston. Not sure what we're doing, but we'll do it. Let's see. Mom once says, my sister took pics of every family member in their casket. Well, the Victorians used to do that too. And Mama once says, my mother always hated that, and ironically, the film didn't develop after my sister took her picture in her casket. Wow. And Papa once says, good night, David. Thanks for letting me vent. And Batzaro says, sorry about your mom, Glynis. Love and good vibes to you and yours. David has a star heart emoticon, and M1 and P1, and the Miko snake emoticon, and a bat for Batzaro. Serena says, okay, David, talk to you soon. Bye for now. Say hi to your wife. And Batzaro says, night, David. Glenn says, it's a hot 98 here. It's a hot August night. It's not August. I love that song by Neil Diamond. David says, Glynis, and Miko says, thanks for the stream. And also David says, Mr. Super Antonio. Serena says, good night, David. Miko says, Thanks to the mods. Everybody take care now. Yes, Miko, appreciate you being here, friend. Glenn says night, David, and Batsaro says night, Miko, and Miko says see you, David. Papa One says, I hope my rant doesn't get the stream demonetized. I try to keep it clean. But the algorithm doesn't really pay attention to the chat. It's only it's only what I'm saying or what I'm showing. So don't worry about it, Papa One. It's not your responsibility. It's my responsibility. And I think we'll be fine. Appreciate all of you. Shout out to the mods, David, Mama One, Papa One, Serena. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation on the Tunguska event. Next week, I believe we shall be doing The Exorcist, which is a cursed movie. What's cursed about it? Well, you'll have to find out next week. Hope to see you again tomorrow night. I hope you feel better. Serena, Glynis, thank you for being here. Really sorry about your mother. Appreciate all of you, friends.